Several years ago, a close friend of mine, whom I consider a true brother, decided to move in with some acquaintances of my older sister. Unfortunately, I never held these individuals in high regard. At the time, my friend had recently gained access to a trust fund, and as luck would have it, they took advantage of his generosity. He spent the money lavishly, buying them all new shoes, clothes, tickets to a music festival, and indulging in copious amounts of weed and related paraphernalia. In his misguided innocence, he believed these were responsible choices, completely dismissing the idea of pursuing a college education, which, in hindsight, would have been a wiser investment. As expected, the trust fund eventually ran dry, but not before a mere month and a half had passed since he moved in with these unsavory characters. Predictably, they promptly showed their true colors, casting him out without a second thought. However, their cruelty did not stop there. Before parting ways, they shamelessly seized several brand-new expensive bongs, confiscated a quarter-pound of premium weed from him as collateral for his overdue rent, helped themselves to all the food he had bought, took his Xbox console and games, and even pocketed $150 from him. Unbeknownst to my friend, the landlord of the house was the father of one of these individuals, adding another layer of injustice to the situation. It was time for these thick-headed jerks to face the consequences of their actions, and I had all the necessary information to execute the perfect revenge. As it turned out, these culprits carelessly left their back door unlocked, oblivious to the possibility of my friend summoning the courage required for such a daring act. Fortunately, my older sister happens to possess a level of audacity that surpasses both of these delinquents combined, and I inherited a bit of that fearlessness myself. Plus, thanks to Dave Chappelle's influence, I knew enough to invoke the Fifth Amendment if necessary. A few days later, while they were at work, my friend and I decided to break into their residence. He assured me there were no security cameras, but what they did have was a running game of Guitar Hero, carelessly left on before these posers headed out for the day. Guiding me through their domain, my friend pointed out the location of their lockbox, which appeared about as secure as the lock on my sister's diary. No challenge at all. We cracked it open and were rewarded with approximately $1,200 in cash, an ounce or two of weed, a valuable-looking hippie crystal, now in my possession no less, and, oddly enough, a .38 revolver. Gathering up our newfound treasures, along with my friend's bongs and their final case of beer, I decided to draw a bath that I had no intention of taking. As for my friend's request to retrieve his Xbox, I had a better plan in mind. I noticed a grinder, a pipe, and their Guitar Hero set, so we resolved to purchase him a new console with the cash we had acquired. We celebrated our triumph by cracking open some beers, smoking the last of their weed, and bidding farewell to their former abode while Bon Jovi's Livin' on a Prayer blared triumphantly at 100% completion. As we left, it appeared that the bath I had initiated had begun to flood the house, further adding to the misfortunes they had already suffered. In the end, these individuals faced the consequences of their actions and were promptly evicted, in addition to losing everything they had previously seized from my friend. Act 1. Oh no. It all unfolded yesterday. As a 17-year-old with a full beard and a ponytail living in the UK but originally from India, I found myself amidst an eventful evening. Being a natural English speaker and currently halfway through my A-levels at a prestigious grammar school, I had the chance to accompany my 13-year-old brother, who has level 3 ASD autism spectrum disorder, to his school's parents' evening. His school was specially designed to cater to his needs, unlike mine. My father drove us to the school, and as we stepped out of the car, I noticed an intense scene in the parking lot. An entitled mother was shouting at another student, EK in a foreign language. This caught my attention, and I made a mental note of it. Once inside the school, while my brother and dad filled out the registration forms, I decided to help myself to a cup of tea. I settled down, checking my phone and minding my own business when suddenly a colossal shadow loomed over me. To my surprise, it was the very same entitled mother who was as large as an elephant. I continued sipping my tea and glancing at my messages until she cleared her throat, demanding my attention. entitled Mother, Ahem. Me, huh? Entitled Mother, she shouted at me in her language. Me, sorry, I don't speak your language. EK, you look like you do. Me, excuse me, I only speak English, Punjabi, and German. Can't you translate for your mother? The entitled mother then tried to grab my tea, but I swiftly moved my hand out of her reach. Everyone's eyes were on us, and her behavior infuriated me. It was time to give her a taste of her own medicine. Nay, all right, I've had enough. I stood up. If you want the tea, go ahead and take it. I extended the cup towards her, but just as she reached for it, I swiftly retracted my hand and dropped the cup into a conveniently placed bin nearby, much like dropping a microphone after a powerful performance. Nee, since you both seem to be nothing more than rubbish, I figured you'd be comfortable retrieving it. Clearly, you don't need a drink, miss. With that, I walked away, leaving the entitled mother fuming. My brother and dad were ready to start their first meeting with the teachers, so we proceeded without paying her any further attention. Despite her continued shouting in her language, which I couldn't understand, I chose to ignore her and focused on the task at hand. Act 2. Oh God, no. After 10 minutes, the meeting with the teachers concluded. My brother received incredibly positive feedback and was even gifted a chocolate bar, much to his delight. As we left the room, I noticed the entitled mother and EK sitting across from us. If their glares could kill, I would have perished multiple times over. Fortunately, their hostile stares didn't last long. Unfortunately, what followed was even worse. EK, I want that chocolate. Dad. No, he has already had half of it. Besides, don't you understand the concept of sharing? EK, that R word has a disease. The entitled mother burst into laughter, indicating that she at least understood English. My brother's anger began to boil, and he prepared to pounce on the entitled mother like a fierce wolf. Thankfully, my dad swiftly intervened, holding him back. Meanwhile, I felt a surge of rage building up within me, but it seemed that divine intervention was at play as a savior appeared in our midst. A teacher emerged from her classroom, catching sight of the commotion. Teacher, the only disease I see here is people like you, EK, and entitled mother who spread toxicity in our community. Such behavior will not be tolerated. Unfortunately, your son has repeatedly proven to be disruptive in the school, particularly in my classes. I'm surprised he hasn't faced stricter consequences. Now, please come inside for your appointment. Or would you prefer a lecture on how diseases can be transmitted through consuming other people's food? A triumphant smile crept onto my face. My brother gradually calmed down and proceeded to savor his chocolate, taking large bites and relishing each one, intentionally prolonging his enjoyment. My dad struggled to contain his laughter, and the entitled mother stood there dumbfounded while EK realized the gravity of his mistake. Teacher, I'll see you later for your appointment, bro. Enjoy the chocolate. Both my brother and dad burst into laughter as we made our way to the next appointment, leaving the entitled mother in a state of utter bewilderment. Act 3. Oh, hell no. After a series of additional appointments, during which the teachers kindly rewarded both my brother and me with more chocolate for enduring the day, we had one final meeting scheduled with the counselor. As we prepared to enter her room, the demon and her unruly child appeared from around the corner once again, screaming in their native language. However, the counselor promptly stepped in to defend us from their onslaught. Counselor, I'm sorry, entitled mother, but I must insist that you leave. This is the third disruption you've caused today. EK, that kid has been talking badly about me all day. Counselor, I find that hard to believe. What exactly did he supposedly say? EK, waste men. Dad and I couldn't contain our laughter. There was no way my brother would say something like that. The counselor invited us into her room, but the entitled mother started running towards us. Her running style was so comical that my brother burst into laughter and ended up falling to the floor. Finally, the entitled mother began speaking in broken English. Entitled, Mother, we followed this scoundrel all day, and he didn't help me find the rooms I needed. Counselor, so you've been stalking these people for 2 hours? Entitled, Mother, it's not stalking. This boy is a guide and should assist me. She looked at me. Me. I don't even attend this school. Entitled, Mother, yes, I saw you here yesterday. Me, I was in Cambridge yesterday. I can't magically teleport. Counselor, additionally, his beard and hairstyle would be considered excessive in this school. Our hair policy states, EK interrupts the counselor nonsense. Girls have the same kind of hair as him. My brother chimed in. Girls naturally have long hair, you dumbo. He even attempted to make an elephant noise, adding a touch of humor. The entitled mother began walking towards my brother, who promptly fell backward onto the floor. Bro, I didn't do anything. Brother gets up. I know, I just didn't want to get squashed by your blubber. Dad and I temporarily lost it, laughing uncontrollably, while the counselor wore a smile on her face. The entitled mother turned to EK, questioning the meaning of blubber. EK, it means whale body. Enraged, the entitled mother threw her bag at my brother, narrowly missing his face. The counselor swiftly pressed the security button on the wall, which I hadn't even noticed before. Apparently, it was only used in extreme cases, but everyone agreed the situation had escalated beyond extreme. Dad confronted the entitled mother, shouting things like, "What is wrong with you? And do you want to get arrested, you fool?" Meanwhile, the entitled mother continued to mutter, "He deserves it." Security finally arrived and escorted the troublesome duo out. The counselor handed my brother a can of Pepsi to help him cool down, and we proceeded to our final meeting of the day. Little did we know what awaited us in the moments to come. Act 4. Oh, my dear goodness. With all the meetings concluded and my brother receiving delightful feedback, we decided to treat ourselves to a meal at Nando's as a well-deserved reward. As we exited the school, bidding farewell to the receptionist, I heard my dad exclaim, "Oh my goodness," and my brother started growling. To our surprise, entitled mother, whom I had started to believe was the mother of Satan, with EK possibly being a demonic entity in disguise, had summoned the police to the parking lot. Although we knew we hadn't done anything wrong, except perhaps triggering their anger, but one could argue they provoked each incident. We cautiously approached the scene. That's when I heard something that turned the entire situation upside down. Police. Hey, buddy. Dad. Hey, police. How's the wife? It turned out that the police officer was actually one of my dad's drinking buddies. It was sheer luck, or at least that's what I thought. As it happened, when the police received the call, this particular officer had requested to handle the situation, knowing that we would be there since my dad had mentioned it on Saturday. Either way, it felt like divine intervention was on our side. Police. Apparently, this woman claims that you've been stalking her for the past 2 hours. Dad. Quite the contrary. She's been stalking us. Police. That's what I suspected. Entitled, Mother started screaming at the other officer, who politely tried to calm her down, but she wasn't having any of it. Meanwhile, EK was inexplicably flossing, perhaps under the delusion that we would be swiftly condemned to some medieval punishment. Everyone in the parking lot was staring at her. The commotion attracted the attention of the headmaster, a distinguished gentleman who had been well informed about her troublesome behavior, and the caretaker, who was holding a laptop. Headmaster, it appears there's a problem, officer. Police, you seem to be aware of the situation, sir. Headmaster, I took the liberty of reviewing the CCTV footage from the school, which clearly shows this woman engaging in her outrageous actions. I'm not a lawyer, good sir, but I can assure you that these 3 men are innocent of any crimes, except perhaps for that beard, he pointed at me. Everyone, except the entitled duo, burst into laughter. Entitled, Mother turned pale, as if she had seen a ghost herself. Driven by adrenaline, she made a desperate dash toward the caretaker, presumably intending to grab his laptop, but the police promptly stopped her in her tracks. Finally, EK realized that he had lost and started crying, prompting the other officer to place him in the police car. The police officer pinned entitled, Mother against the wall. Police, you have the right to remain silent. Entitled, Mother screams, rape, assault. Police, this isn't assault, ma'am. It's an arrest for attempting to resist. Entitled, Mother, racist. Police. This isn't racism either, ma'am. Would you like me to inform you of your charges? Entitled, Mother let out a soul-piercing screech and was swiftly placed in the police car. Everyone involved provided their statements, including the teacher and counselor, who kindly stayed an extra 30 minutes to do so. It's worth noting that we never brought race into the equation. We merely called her out for her foolishness. EK had apparently been suspended, and there was a possibility of seeing entitled mother in court, although I'm not familiar with legal proceedings, so who knows. We all shared a good laugh about the absurdity of the situation before the three of us indulged in a delightful Nando's meal to celebrate my brother's accomplishments. And wouldn't you know it, who did we encounter there? Teacher herself? It turned out her boyfriend or husband, or whoever he was, happened to be the manager, and he graciously offered us a discount to compensate for our trying day. I doubt I'll ever live down how simultaneously stupid and funny this day turned out to be.